In 2026, Novak Djokovic is one of the most respected champions in sports, but there was a time when he was booed, mocked, and openly disliked. A time when many tennis fans didn't see a legend, they saw a villain. In today's video, let's see how Djokovic once was the most hated man in tennis. To understand why Djokovic was disliked, you have to understand when he arrived. Because Novak didn't enter an empty throne room, he walked straight into the era of Federer and Nadal. A rivalry that was captivating the whole tennis world, with a clash of styles and level of tennis that we had never seen before. And then came this kid from Serbia, cracking jokes, doing impressions, and openly being very confident in himself.
I don't need to play anything special, you know? I don't need to play anything special. You know, everybody thinks, Nadal, for sure, he's the best on this surface, but he's not unbeatable, that's for sure. I realized that because I think I could win today. I have to say that even though that he's the best and everybody thinks that he's unbeatable, I say he's not unbeatable, he's beatable.
After interviews like these, and some of his strong celebrations on the court, a lot of tennis fans labeled him as arrogant. And the main rivalry in tennis had the classy in Federer and the humble in Nadal. Djokovic didn't fit the script as well as these two. And even worse than being labeled as arrogant, believe it or not, quite ironic to say this in 2026, but Djokovic back then was seen as a quitter, as in those years Djokovic had a lot of retirements on the court, a lot of them linked to breathing issues and physical struggles. Every time he retired, people questioned his toughness.
Well, it's happened before, so it's not the guy who's never given up in his career, so that's kind of disappointing to see, when you got two top guys playing each other and you give up. He gave up against me in Monaco this year because of last year because of sore throat. Yes, those are kind of things you wonder about.
But then came 2011, and until this point, Djokovic has proven to be the third best player on the planet. Game-wise, he wasn't that far away from Federer and Nadal, but in terms of popularity, he was miles away, which makes total sense being overshadowed by the results. But what would happen if Djokovic takes over in that department? Would he be as cheered for as Federer and Nadal? Obviously the answer is no. And even though he completely dominated Federer and Nadal that year, his connection with the crowds didn't improve. Tennis fans had already picked a side, either Federer or Nadal, and people wanted to continue seeing the rivalry. But Djokovic was spoiling the party pretty much in every tournament. His matches with Nadal did get a lot of admiration for how incredibly physical and mental they were, but his matches with Federer, despite them being a show tennis-wise, they were more hostile in terms of their respective fans, and crowds in their matches would heavily favor Federer. And that's what provoked many of the stare-downs between Djokovic and many crowds, and Djokovic, who maybe back in the day was kind of asking for love and approval, now in so many occasions he was feeding off the hate, using hostile crowds as fuel. Now he wasn't focused on seeking their approval, he was focused on beating them. And he did pretty well, because before 2011, it seemed unthinkable that Djokovic could catch up both Federer and Nadal in the Grand Slam race. But post 2011, Djokovic was unquestionably the best player on the planet. But it wasn't until he caught up in numbers, which happened 10 years later, when he really started to get much more appreciation. In 2021, at the US Open, Djokovic had the opportunity to clinch the calendar slam. Not only that, but also Federer, Nadal and him were tied at 20 Grand Slams apiece, and he had the opportunity to be the first to get the 21st. But in a match of insane pressure, Djokovic was unable to get the victory, but instead, for his surprise, he got an insane amount of love from the crowd throughout the match. Something that made him break down in tears and feel like he had never felt before.
I would like to say that tonight, even though I have not won the match, my heart is filled with joy and I'm the happiest man alive because you guys made me feel very special on the court.
And it's only been in the last few years where you can tell the crowds appreciate him as he deserves. It's been once he has sealed the GOAT debate in terms of numbers, and also Federer and Nadal have retired, that's when clearly a lot of people have stopped seeing him as the enemy or the villain, and have started seeing him by the legend that he is. And it's now that he's in the last stages of his career when you look back and see that many of the criticism that he received was very unfair. He went from being called a quitter to the greatest warrior and mental beast in the sport. His confident lines, which were labeled as arrogance, were then backed by his results. He was many times portrayed as a bad guy, but he was the kindest and most humble player in defeat, with dozens of gestures of amazing sportsmanship. His relationship with crowds, how he used them as fuel and faced adversity, it's difficult not to admire it and respect it. And beyond tennis, a man that proved to the world that his values are more important than any trophy. So perhaps being hated was never his curse, it was his advantage. Because while others were protected by love, Novak was hardened by resistance. And in that resistance, he found something stronger than approval. He found dominance, and once he did, there was no stopping him. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and let me know in the comments, has your view on Djokovic changed throughout the years? If you did enjoy the video and would like to enjoy more internet tennis content of this style, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to know when I upload future videos like this one. All of this said, I hope you have a wonderful day and that I can see you in my next video. Peace!